The haunted house. The wind howled through the trees, carrying with it the scent of rain and decay. Emma stood at the edge of the overgrown path, her flashlight trembling in her hand. The mansion loomed ahead, its silhouette jagged and broken against the stormy sky. Lightning flashed, illuminating the cracked walls and shattered windows for a brief moment before plunging the scene back into darkness. The gate before her was rusted and crooked, its hinges screaming as she pushed it open. She hesitated, her breath visible in the cold air, before stepping onto the property. The yard was a graveyard of neglect. Dead trees clawed at the sky, their branches twisted and bare. Weeds and thorny vines choked the ground, and the remnants of a broken fence lay scattered like bones. The house itself was a monstrosity of peeling paint and crumbling stone. A single light flickered in an upstairs window, casting an erratic glow that seemed to beckon her forward. Emma tightened her coat and took a deep breath, her footsteps crunching on the gravel path as she approached the front door. The air grew heavier with each step, as if the house itself was alive and watching her. She reached the door, her hand hovering over the handle. It was cold to the touch, and as she pushed it open, it creaked loudly, the sound echoing through the empty halls. Inside, the air was thick with dust and the smell of mildew. Her flashlight beam cut through the darkness, revealing a grand foyer with a staircase leading to the upper floors. The wallpaper was peeling, revealing the rotting wood beneath, and the floorboards groaned under her weight. Cobwebs hung like curtains, swaying gently in a cold breeze that seemed to come from nowhere. Emma moved cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. The hallway stretched before her, lined with doors that hung ajar, revealing glimpses of shadowy rooms. At the end of the hall, she saw something. A figure, barely visible, standing perfectly still. Its eyes glowed a faint red, and as she stared, it began to move toward her, silent and deliberate. Panic surged through her, and she stumbled backward, her flashlight flickering. The figure vanished as quickly as it had appeared, leaving her alone in the suffocating darkness. She turned and ran, her footsteps echoing through the empty halls. She found herself in a grand ballroom, though it was far from the elegant space it must have once been. The walls were stained with water damage, and the floor was littered with debris. A cracked mirror hung on one wall, reflecting the room in distorted fragments. In the corner stood a broken piano, its keys yellowed and chipped. As she approached, the piano began to play on its own, a mournful melody that sent chills down her spine. The temperature dropped suddenly, and her breath came out in visible puffs. She turned to see a ghostly figure floating above the ground, a woman in a tattered Victorian dress, her face pale and her eyes hollow. The air around her shimmered with an eerie green light, casting long shadows across the room. The ghost's lips moved, but no sound came out. Instead, the piano grew louder, the notes discordant and jarring. Emma tried to run, but her legs felt like lead. The ghost reached out, her hand inches from Emma's face, when suddenly the flashlight died, plunging the room into darkness. Emma stumbled backward, her heart racing. She fumbled with the flashlight, trying to get it to work, but it remained dead. The ghost's voice echoed in her mind, a whisper that sent shivers down her spine. "Leave this place, or join me forever." Emma turned and ran, her footsteps echoing through the empty halls. She didn't stop until she was outside, the cold night air biting at her skin. She looked back at the house, now silent and still, and swore she'd never return.